saying the crossing was bombed on the Palestinian side by Israel, thus preventing aid from reaching people in the Strip. The President revealed an agreement reached with the United States regarding a sustainable opening of the Rafah crossing under the supervision of the United Nations. The President also added that the proposal aims to allow for vital humanitarian aid to reach the people of Gaza is inevitable. Also, the UN Secretary General has, Antonio Guterres, pleaded for a humanitarian ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas militants that has devastated much of Gaza. Addressing the Cairo summit, Guterres said that the Palestinian enclave of 2.4 million people was living through a humanitarian catastrophe with thousands dead and more than 1 million displaced. Most of the comments or the statements by the Western representatives today of leaders and high-ranking officials attending the summit were emphasizing the importance of finding a solution, a permanent solution to the Palestinian cause. Most of the statements also highlighted the right of Israel to defend itself, but also the importance of a ceasefire to the Israeli actions and aggression against the Palestinian people. Definitely the Arab statements by the leaders of the Arab world, and particularly the Palestinian president, has spotted or highlighted that the importance of finding a permanent solution to the Palestinian cause, but also spoke about the importance of the policy of displacement, which was categorically rejected by all the Arab leaders, and they warned of the liquidation of the Palestinian cause. To highlight the summit today, we have with us here His Excellency Ambassador Ayman Mosharafa, the former Assistant Foreign Minister, to highlight the issue and to comment. Your Excellency, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. And let me take your reading of the importance of this summit at this very critical time and the urgency it was called for by President Sisi.
Yes, actually, the geographical position and the historical position of Egypt is always very, very important. We shouldered 4 wars when it was wartime to defend the Palestinian cause. And after that, when the peacetime started, we made the first peace treaty in 79, and even we invited the Palestinian to the Mena House conference. And always we were trying to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people through the crossing of the Rafah borders or our borders. It was the artery for the Palestinian to go to the outside world, for the student to go to study, for the humanitarian, all sorts of humanitarian aid to flow inside the Gaza Strip. Gaza Strip is under siege since 16 years, which I mean very harsh. Living in the Gaza Strip is becoming an open prison, with living in a very harsh condition, and with daily incursion, daily closure, and even sometimes airstrikes from the Israeli air forces. So the situation has become unbearable, really. In calling this conference after what happened, President Sisi wants to give messages to the outside world.
Indeed.
The first message is to make a ceasefire. The Palestinian could not live under such condition, and we condemned the undiscriminated and unproportional use of force. Second, we are against categorically the forced displacement of the Palestinian from their homeland. And he said that the Palestinians are proud of their homeland and they will never leave their homeland. Third, and the most important message, and he said it twice, that any forced displacement or any what so-called solution will not be at the expense of Egypt, because the border of Egypt is inviolable. I mean, the border of Egypt is sacred and will not accept any displacement for Palestinian or other people
Indeed.
inside the Egyptian border.
Full stop.
Third, full stop. I mean, it was a very, very clear message. And the King of Jordan said it too, not in the conference, but he said it before in a speech, that his country will never accept the forced displacement of the Palestinian toward the
In his
Hashemite
lands.
kingdom.
Yes, indeed.
And the fourth, that is very important to assimilate the humanitarian aid to the Palestinian inside Gaza through a safe corridor under the auspices of the United Nations or the Red Crescent or whatever. That means we should stop the daily suffering of the people in Gaza. And we should, I mean, a ceasefire is very important because every law of war or humanitarian law was broken by the Israelis in hitting hospitals, hitting education, even the UNRWA, I mean, some
Schools.
UNRWA schools were hit.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, and those are United Nations facilities. And the UNRWA, according to the UNRWA spokesman, 17 of their employees were killed. I mean, those establishments are under the protection of the rule of law and the humanitarian aid and all provision of the United Nations. I mean, this situation is unbearable. And he said again, and the fifth and the most important message too, we need a two-state solution. Palestine and Israel, and a Palestinian viable and livable and sustainable state, not a piece of Gruyere, I mean, not a livable, not an unlivable state, a livable state. So we should start a really peace process which would give the Palestinian their homeland to live in peace and dignity.
Your Excellency, here you mentioned several very important points and messages that were given by the President, and we'll get back definitely to the importance of the two-state solution. But before I go to that, let me here take how you read the statements of other, particularly Western leaders. And you pinpointed your finger on a very important issue, which is the discrimination policy that we've been seeing as a response by the international community towards the Palestinian cause. As if the humanity or lives were customized only to one state with no regard to the rights of the other.
Really, I was a little bit astonished and puzzled. Some foreign ministers and representatives, they regret the loss of life of Israel and they, in the Israeli citizen, and they branded the Hamas as a terrorist organization. I do believe that the human life is uniform. The life of the Palestinian is equal to the life of Israeli. And even the human life, according to the United Nations Charter and human rights, it is equal regardless their skin, their religion, their color, and their origin. So, I mean, this is a kind of double standard. I mean, condemning and strictly and harshly what happened in Israel, and myself, I condemned.
We're speaking here about a group that does not represent the Palestinians.
I condemn the loss of life for Israeli civilians. I mean, we are, and we condemned it here in Egypt right away. I mean, targeting civilian is against the rule of wars and the rule of law, and international laws. I mean, but there should be, I mean, a feeling, an even-handed feeling, and a sorrow from both sides. Like, you know, the Western people expressed it. You see people in the street of London and in Paris and in Madrid and in Rome. There is a human dignity, a human they are sharing.
The conscience
They are human
of
conscience.
nations.
The human conscience of nations, they are sharing, and they are really condemning what is happening, the indiscriminate use of force and the disproportionate use of force. You know, up till now, 4,500 Palestinians nearly perished. 70% are women and children. I mean, like the president said, what is the guilt of a baby, or is an elderly man, or a woman to be killed in such a senseless violence?
And we still are speaking about a group that does not represent the Palestinians. It's a group.
Yes, I do believe that the PLO are the sole representative of the Palestinian people, not Hamas.
And also, after very hard times given by the Israeli government, the far-right Israeli government has given to the Palestinians in the occupied territories since a while. How do you view how Palestinians were treated even before Hamas carried out this strike, and the response, the disproportional, unjustified response of Israel?
The root of this explosion, it goes, I mean, this government, a minister like Ben Gvir or Smolovich or whatever, which are desecrating our holy sites in the Al-Aqsa Mosque, daily incursion. I mean, this creating like a boiling pot and putting oil on the fire itself. It creates really an anger for the Palestinian people. By the way, Al-Aqsa Mosque doesn't belong only to Palestinian. It belongs to the Muslim, it belongs to the Arab. It's the second holy shrine for the Muslims. So, I mean, all of this, actions are not responsible action. This government, I think so, it's not a government which have a main target for peace. I mean, since the Oslo started in 1993, it should end in 1999. We are, after Oslo, 14 years, 24 years, nothing will happen. So it creates a sense of despair. The Palestinians have engaged in peace, and even Yasser Arafat, Chairman Arafat, went to the United Nations and said, I have the rifle in one hand and the olive branch in one hand. And he said it 3 times. Don't let the olive branch fall from my hand. And what's happening now? I mean, there is always endless peace talks. And and you had the Arab peace agreement, 2006, peace for land. The Israelis are having this formula, peace for peace. What is peace for peace? I mean, it should have a concrete, having 2 states according to the 338 and 224 resolution. And Jerusalem as a capital of Palestine. All this fell off short.
When the president hears...
And I want to add something. You have 700,000 settlers in 114 settlements in the West Bank alone. So what kind of land is remaining? You have 700 settlers eating up the West Bank day by day. This is a government for peace.
And this is the warning the president spoke about of liquidating the Palestinian cause at large. Because not only demolishing houses, not only kicking out Palestinians from their homes, not only building new settlements, Jewish settlers in the Palestinian areas, not only attacking Palestinians to let them out of their own homes, but also Israel now is calling for Palestinians to get out of their homelands to other areas. How do you view this very important principle the president stressed on, which is the liquidation of the Palestinian cause, sending Palestinians outside Palestine? And how do you view how the President stressed that this will never happen and will never happen on the expenses of Egypt?
You have 2.6 million Palestinians living in Gaza and another 4 point something living in the West Bank. That means the totality around 6 million Palestinians. I don't know how they will transfer those Palestinians. You cannot liquidate a people who has history, who has root with this land to neighboring country. The neighboring country refuse, and themselves the Palestinians refuse.
Totally refuse.
Like
totally
Mahmoud
rejected.
Abbas, he said in his speech, President Abbas, he said, we learned the mistakes of the Nakba. It will never happen again. We will clinch and we will live to our land. Even we die in our land. And it was expressed too by Hussam Zamlat, the Palestinian ambassador in London, in a very, very, very articulate way. I mean, the Palestinians learned their lesson. I think they will never, never allow the Israeli to displace them again.
How would the liquidation of the Palestinian cause reflect on the whole region? No, on the whole world.
Of course, first of all, it will create a wave of terror, because most of the oppressed people, they will feel there is, I mean, uneven treatment of the international dignity and the international community, and all the United Nations institutions have failed to tackle the Palestinian issue. The Palestinian issue is in the United Nations since Resolution 181, which is issued in 1948, giving 51% of historical Palestine to the Israelis and 49% to the Arabs. And right now what's remaining of historical Palestine is just 11%. So I mean, even they could not get the 11%. What kind of feeling those people they will do have? They will play in the hand of terrorists. So I mean, you should start a really viable peace agreement to create stability, because this stability is reflecting on the neighboring country, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Jordan, in Egypt. If, I mean, there is a ground incursion or the situation will continue as some Israeli politicians are saying for 1 year, it will create terrible instability in the Middle East and in the basin of the Mediterranean, and even inside the European country.
Exactly.
Because the European country have a lot of Muslims, a lot of Arabs inside them. They have the Trojan horse inside. So it will create a wave of terror, a wave of disenchantment with the European and the Western government. So I mean, the Western government have a real keen interest in start to pushing an international peace agreement or international peace conference. And Egypt, we throw the seed. The president throw the ball in the to the international community. I give you the thread, and you start really making a credible peace roadmap based on a ceasefire, and after that to engage on a time-limited peace negotiation, not an endless one, not open-ended, till you reach a solution for the Palestinians.
Here, let me say, maybe the president did not say the statement or this particular statement today, but I'm just reiterating his past words. The policy of collective punishment Israel is carrying out with, preventing food, preventing electricity, preventing fuel, oil, preventing Palestinians from being able to live, to have the right to live. And we've seen the Baptist hospital being
Yes.
being bombarded, and around 500 people getting killed. And yesterday, just yesterday, the Israeli authorities have warned the Red Crescent and the international organizations working there, and also the Al-Quds hospital authorities, to evacuate, for the second time, to evacuate a hospital. Now let me here take this policy and how the world see such a policy?
You know, I was thrilled about a remark that President Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, made. He branded the system that the Palestinian is living as an apartheid system, as another reincarnated apartheid. The final apartheid had ended in South Africa, but let the Palestinian living in ghetto with collective punishment, with discrimination, is a kind of apartheid. So I liked, you know, what he said exactly, because he lives this experience.
A description, a real
So
description.
I mean, and you know that there was a unanimous, nearly a unanimous feeling and sharing about the suffering of the Palestinian. You have the Brazilians, you have the South Africa representing the African continent, you have Japan, you have many countries. They are really condemning this kind of collective punishment, this kind of unwritten apartheid, because you could not live in such condition. And in the same time, what is happening is a culture of just vengeance. What is going, it's not just une riposte, I mean, against a certain act or a counter-violence. No, it is a targeted vengeance of the population, because the population, I mean, the Palestinians, they are not the main, most of the Palestinians, the mainstream is not Hamas. They are normal people living. And by the way, the people living in the Gaza Strip, they are not Gazan. They are coming from different parts of Israel. After the Nakba, the Gaza Strip have collected all kind of refugees from north of Israel, from center, from Naqib. So Gaza was built on refugees camp. So themselves, they are living in a plight of refugees and suffering since a long time.
The issue of self-defense, or the right of self-defense, which is the main claim of Israel, of carrying out what the aggression Israel is doing towards a population at large. Here, they say that they have the right to for self-defense against Hamas actions. Why would they hit the West Bank or Al-Quds or other areas in the Palestinian territories, and what does this reflect?
They killed since 10 days around 61 Palestinians in the West Bank, and 13 only in Tul Karam. You know, self-defense, the concept is self-defense, it should be proportionate to the act itself. So, I mean, if they are in self-defense, they would go target Hamas, target the fighter of Hamas, but not going against the mainstream Palestinians, destroying, I mean, their living condition. This is a collective punishment. You are destroying water, it's a lifeline. You cannot live without water. You could not live without electricity. You could not live. Even they destroyed some bakeries. Bakeries, for God's sake, it is food. It's the basic food, bread. Many bakeries were destroyed and targeted for no reason. It's a kind of collective punishment which is not permissible in the modern days. And it should be punishable by the United Nations system.
Indeed.
If they want to do really international justice.
Speaking about justice, and the world calls for making a passage for humanitarian aid. It has been 1 week, one exactly week. And just today, ahead of this summit, the Israelis opened the crossing, the gates of the crossing borders in Rafah from their side, because from our side it was always opened, not closed. Despite the US president himself calling for the opening of the gates, despite yesterday, the UN Secretary General in Rafah pleaded for making a passage for humanitarian aid. what does this reflect of how Israel is responding towards international cause, humanitarian aspect, and definitely the UN is the representative of the whole world. It's the world body.
You know, for instance, they have bombed Rafah crossing from the Palestinian side 4 times. And they made the pass impossible. So yesterday, Egyptian teams, engineers went inside to try to repair the Palestinian side to be able that the trucks move inside the Palestinian land. So, I mean, they are not really very sincere about passing or having that the aid will pass to the recipient in the Gaza Strip. I think that's a private opinion, a purely private opinion. They want to make their life hell, so they would leave the Gaza enclave to another place.
Well, actually,
that's the strategy,
not very
I think.
Personal point of view, anyway. If we get back to the world or the international response towards the cause. And today, as we've just been hearing the words and statements by the Western leaders and representatives who came to Egypt to attend the peace conference. The first statements was always unequivocal support to the self-defense claim by Israel. And then a ceasefire, a humanitarian passage, and all this. But the first, always the first of their words was the right for Israel for self-defense. How do the international community define the word self-defense from their own perspectives? And how do they view the policy of Israel inside the Palestinian territories, and if that really matters anyway?
You know, actually, from a perspective that the Hamas attacked first, so they mean Israel is in self-defense. But if you look at from international law, the Gaza Strip is under Israeli occupation, and Israel is the occupier. And usually, the people who are occupied and oppressed have the right to resist, have the right to liberate themselves.
It doesn't seem that they have any rights.
So from a perspective of law, we say the Hamas have launched this attack, which I do not agree totally with it, because in a way or another, they should not attack civilians. Anyway, it's a private opinion too. But in the same time, they have the right to resist. The Palestinian people have the right to resist. And the Israeli, they are the occupying forces. Even they would retaliate, it should be with a proportional use of force, not disproportionate use of force. Not to use this, awesome weapons and destroy and go against any rule, any disregard, any rule of law, any rule of humanitarian law, any provision of the United Nations. They free themselves totally from any human and legal obligation, and they start on a destroying spree.
Speaking about proportional, how proportional was that when the US president asked the Congress to agree on $106 billion for for Israel, for Ukraine, and for the borders, 10 billion for Israel, and 100 million for the Palestinian territories?
Yes.
For the devastated, destroyed in a catastrophic situation?
This is a very disproportionate, really. And I hope that the Congress will have a say in it, because anyway, the Congress is a legislative body of the United States, and they should be the conscience of the American people. And I do believe that not all the American people agree with the policy of President Biden. and it was spelled out in some demonstration in Washington. So, I mean, it's very unfair. I mean, the Gaza Strip needs more aid. I mean, the Palestinians are 6 million and the Israeli are around 8 million or 9 million. So, I mean, it should be more than that, 10 times.
Your Excellency, Egypt has been working for this cause since since it began.
Yes.
From the very beginning. We fought even for it. Up till this very particular minute. And has always shouldered its burden, despite all the pressures put by, on Egypt for certain demands. What is requested at this upcoming stage for the Palestinian cause and for supporting at least the Egyptian point of view?
I didn't get your question exactly.
Again,
Yes.
again, what is requested from the world community towards the Palestinian cause at this very particular time and after all that time? And what is requested from the international community towards Egypt, who also shouldered all this responsibility?
First of all, they should help Egypt to assimilate the humanitarian aid to the Palestinians
This is the
in
least.
the Gaza Strip. In the Gaza Strip. And it should support Egypt in launching a peace process, a comprehensive one, and to pressure the Israelis to start negotiation in good faith to achieve result. Because as the president said, and he made it clear, that no expense, no solution of the Palestinian problem on the expense of Egypt.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
they should, in a way or another, help us to achieve the political goal and to help the Palestinians
Yes.
to have their homeland.
Yes, indeed. Your Excellency, Ayman Mosharafa, former assistant foreign minister, thank you so much for being with us and for your input.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. And I guess that takes us to the end of our coverage for now. Now we'll leave you for the top stories of, on the top of the hour, and then we'll continue on with our coverage.